question for Chris. We know that situational awareness is about perception, comprehension, and projection. Am I right in thinking that the Sonification approach that you described is more about the perception and a bit about the comprehension?
Music at one level. Within music, there are two terms, and one of them means encore, and the other one's entard. I'm sorry if anybody's French here. I do apologise for mutilating that language. But the first one means to listen, which gets you into the perception, and the next one is to understand, which gets you into the comprehension. So with sonification, you're really looking at the two levels in music theory, which is listening and understanding. The projection is really not up to the system, it's up to the individual. The individual has to take note of what the sound is telling them and then make a conscious decision to do something. So therefore, let's use the analogy of a child crying. The child is crying, obviously it wants something, but the sound itself doesn't portray what the child wants. It could be anything from feeding to changing a nappy. So it's then up to the individual to use their other sense to discover which particular element needs to be addressed with the child.
So the analyst then applies some judgment.
They have, yeah, it's a decision-making process. Okay, the next step. One of the things I didn't talk about. The next step would be to make sure that the system, or to get the system to adapt. So they're forget about the sound bit. They're using the SOC to change its security posture in order to lessen the stress that the system, the network's going through. But that's further on.
Is it a single sound that you use, or is it a multiple sound?
At the moment, we've got 4 tracks, okay, and it's using pure data that's a free way. Anybody can go and build. You can have a look at the photo, the diagram in the paper, and go and build your own one. But we concentrated on packets and bytes sent and packets and bytes received. So we had 4 channels that we mixed down, and we used waterfalls, raindrops, tingly bells, and some other new age sound, in order to give it. We were only just prototyping it, but what we discovered was that we aggregated the data at the wrong level. We used thought, okay, it's going to be real time, so we did it every second. Well, you can listen to it, and it goes dingle, 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 ding. Well, that's just an alarm, because it's suddenly gone from very normal to a burst. So we've aggregated it at the wrong level. So we're now looking at aggregating 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. So we get a smooth, we start to get a graduated change in the response.
Can you just have an alarm then
It's good, but that's pointless then, isn't it? Yeah, but that because it's not a threat, it just tells you something's wrong. It's like a telephone call. If with the idea of sonification is to make somebody aware of a changing situation, not it's changed, but something is changing. So therefore, remember about situational awareness. Something's happening on the network. You need to go and do something about it. With an alarm, all that tells you something's happening.
So it's about the prompts, the cues, the information you derive from those, and then using it to turn into either a type of monitoring and then provide that.
But in this case, you will have plenty of false alarms.
No, because what it's monitoring is how the network's responding. It's not monitoring what the traffic's doing. It doesn't care what the traffic's doing. It's just traffic. It could be anything. All it's doing is all it's monitoring is how the system is responding. So if the system is under stress, like it's suffering the denial of service attack, okay, that's not a false alarm. That's happening, but the sonification is telling you by the rising of the power spectrum that the amount of traffic that's traveling across this network is getting to such a level that if it was an earthquake, there will be a catastrophic reset. But you don't have catastrophic resets.
The problem how to set this level, the threshold. How we can decide this is the threshold. After that, there is alarm.
That's outside the remit of this project.
Study, yeah.
you network the network team could set that up, because what they could do is they could run it over 24 hours, and they could do 24-hour slots every 5 weeks, let's say. They get a minimum data level stream, and that's their threshold set.
Again, there is another problem. When we set the level, maybe there is a true alarm, but under this level.
And so I didn't get that.
Yes, when we put the level above it, it is alarm. Again, we might have alarms, real alarms. There's a problem, or there's a tag, but under this level, we don't.
Yes. No,
So
but
what
the
I
thing
think what he's trying to tease out.
I know what he's saying. Yeah, I got it.
Baselining.
Yeah, but the thing is, if the baseline is set
Yeah.
and there's an attack below that baseline, then it's not a threat.
From your system viewpoint,
My-
maybe,
yeah.
maybe in the
Well,
fact
that's up to the admin. Sorry, I come from a professional. You know, I work in this environment, and that's up to the admin team to set their thresholds. I'm not telling the admin team what threshold to set. It's up to them. All I'm saying is, if you set the threshold and the system is not, nothing's happening, then the system's able to deal with that. What this is telling you that the system's no longer able to deal with it, and it's getting more and more stressed because it's going outside that threshold. As it gets more and more stressed outside the threshold, that's when you should have to do something about it. If it's below the threshold, then it's fine.
I think it will be very useful for early warning systems and for preemptive. So it gives you cues and prompts you to go and look at something rather than solving a baseline for you. And I think that's very useful. Thank you. Yep.
I've got a question for the patient mode.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I was just wondering, so you mentioned homomorphic encryption, which is, I believe, commonly still regarded as being quite resource intense. Have you been doing some practical experiments, and have you been able to run it on the mobile cloud actually, which might also have some resource constraints?
Yes, actually we were thinking of putting that in the kiosk database. Yeah, I mean, when data is coming from the health workers, it is first as if stored in the kiosk database and then being uploaded, because always we are not getting the connectivity. So in the kiosk database we are thinking that since it will not be a mobile, it may be a laptop. Okay, so maybe there are resources, so we can use that kind of homomorphic encryption. Yeah, it really is resourceful.
Yes, and this would not be actually running on the cloud.
Yeah.
Yes, mobile.
But for sensor data, actually we are not yet sure, because sensors, we have ECG sensors also, so they have to be first compressed. I mean, those data, ECG data, they have to be compressed first, and then only you can apply encryption.
I've got some, not a question for you,
Sure.
but more of curious about with infrastructure not being available for the remote areas that the nurses are. How challenging is your work to deliver such prototype to those places?
Yeah, I will tell you that at least at one of the locations, it does not have any electricity too. Okay, so we have to hire a generator to keep the kiosk running, and during that short period of time, say from morning 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you can only run the kiosk, upload the data. There is also no mobile signal, no mobile towers. You have to go to some distance, maybe that's an island. Okay, so you have to go to some edge of the water, I mean, to get a signal, rise on a higher ground, get the signal and transfer it from there. So this kiosk is really challenging for us also, because we are also not used to such environment.
So for reliability of your work then, it may well be that you look at protocols that have acknowledgement at the end of it.
Yes.
So that if the traffic tears down and it reconnects,
Right.
you haven't lost any of those packets in
Yes.
between.
Surely. We will look into that, because reliability is also one of my research areas, so it will be easier.
Further questions, guys? All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.